Hello, everyone. I'm Amber Noor Mustafa. I am a Fulbright PhD candidate at Florida State University in the International and Multicultural Education Program. This autoethnography questions the social and cultural elements of society which create gender differences between individuals, placing some inferior to others. It explores the tensions between performance and perceptions of gender. After deep analysis, I concluded that I had always accepted myself to be the gender society had assigned to me, since gender is believed to be a social construct, which is the product of certain societal, cultural, and physical arrangements, representations, and ideologies, as West and Zipperman explain. By using my life experiences as a woman in Pakistan, this ethnography asks three pertinent questions about gender positionality, identity, and performance. Identifying as a cisgender heterosexual woman, I ask, who made me a woman? Did society make me a woman? Did my body make me a woman? Or did men make me a woman? And then I'm going to look at the different dimensions of these three questions. The first question is, did society make me a woman? Allah beta dega. In English, that means God will give you a son. Saying that, the elderly lady put her hand on my mother's head, as elders in Pakistan often do to show affection and care. But at the tender age of 8 years, I could not understand why she said that, as she looked at my two sisters and me. This was the first of many times that I witnessed that as I grew up. Many would ask, Beta nahi hai? Translated, you don't have a son? As if something terrible had happened and the sky would fall. It was only when I grew older I became aware of the gender-based discrimination prevalent in the society where I lived, which had different rules of privilege for different genders and had barred women's representation in decision-making roles in political, economic, and household matters using cultural and social and as well as religious values as an excuse. Lord 1984 explains the reality of a mythical norm, that an image of the norm or dominant characters in society dwells in our minds, which is a male person, of course, in a patriarchal society. When we know we do not have those attributes, we feel inferior to that norm. Extending that idea, I think that if someone thinks we resemble that person, then we tend to feel elevated. So when parents say to their daughters, you are like my son, these daughters feel proud. The situation of discrimination against women around the world is alarming. According to the World Bank, women make up almost half the population of the world at 49.7%. But statistics show that they face inequities in all spheres of their lives. For example, they are paid 24% less than men, a gap that will take 170 years to fill. 75% of women in developing countries work in precarious forms of work with no legal contracts or work-related protection. The unpaid household chores and maternal care that they provide are worth $10.8 trillion on average annually and 10 times that of men. Just last week, a baby girl was found in a drain in Mumbai as nobody wanted her. While 23 million girls in Asia alone became a victim of sex-selective abortion last year. And the exact numbers of female infanticide remain unknown. But despite these mindsets, I can say that my parents tried to shield my sisters and me from these gendered, cultural, and social norms. Both of them worked really hard to give us the best opportunities and a very privileged life very few girls get. Another dimension to this discrimination is the process of finding suitors for girls. In many areas in South Asia, The general practice is that parents help their kids in finding a spouse, and I generally do not have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is the process through which these suitors visit girls' houses to accept or reject them. And so, at a marriageable age, I was also prepared to present myself to families of eligible bachelors, as I had observed so many of my friends do. In hindsight, I believe I had actually accepted it as a cultural milestone and did not consider it wrong practice. Thankfully, my parents never put me through that ordeal, and I got married in a respectable manner with high self esteem and confidence. But many girls have to go through this belittling process. It is as if there is a systemized and institutionalized societal plan for oppression of a certain kind of people, namely women in this case. Lord 1984 endorses this idea and says that sadly, many women unknowingly or knowingly partake in this planned subordination and oppression, considering it an attribute of their gender performance. The third dimension is that at 21 years, when I was already engaged to be married, I experienced a very severe and serious car accident. My forehead was slit right above my left eyelid, distorting my eyebrow for life. My sisters and parents were also injured very, very severely. Everybody got their stitches except me, as a specialized team of plastic surgeons was called for my wounds. She's a girl. We don't want her face to be disfigured, was the reason. A nurse specially inquired if I was already married or engaged. She was probably worried that I might get rejected now that my face was damaged. The team of plastic surgeons worked on my face, stitching and unstitching and restitching, just so that it would remain marriageable. I realized I was a woman and my appearance was an important part of my existence, and this was a culturally accepted and endorsed fact. Connell's concept of contextually engineered gender seems relevant here, and this takes me to my next question about gender identity and performance. Did my body make me a woman? Recalling the last many years of my life, a critical question that comes to my mind is whether my body dictated my gender identity. Many incidents seem to point in this direction. As I was growing adolescence, my maternal uncle brought Barbie dolls for my sisters and me. Unconsciously, actually, I started wishing to have a figure like them. Betty and Veronica in Archie comics, female lead characters in Walt Disney movies, all seem to have such wonderful figures. And an aspiration to become like them made me feel ugly. I remember the time spent in front of the mirror, pulling my shirt taut from the sides, hoping to see their figure in my body. Even academic excellence at school could not outweigh my perception of female beauty and femininity, built on the standards prevalent around me. My body told me I was a woman, and I wanted reassurance through a very perfect figure. The beauty industry fuels and thrives on these perceptions about beauty. The global beauty industry is worth $511 billion. Total beauty industry spending in 2020 was $483 billion, expected to go up to $716 billion by 2025. I lost a family member in my extended family at the hands of excessive bleeding due to medicines given for hair transplant surgery. He was just 32 and was about to get married very soon. So it was established in my mind that contextually engineered attributes of my body represent my gender. But this mindset became questionable recently when I read Rubin and Tenenbaum's work about cancer survivors who had lost their breasts to mastectomy and were not sure what gender they were anymore. Similarly, a woman on a face group who lacked a uterus since birth inquired if she should call herself a woman when her anatomy did not meet the standard traits set by society, whether observable or concealed. Lord criticizes that man's objectification of women has made women conscious of their bodies. So even after going through body modifications due to medical reasons, they are advised to hide this change to remain acceptable by society. I witnessed the implications of gender performance around me. At 4 years, my sister had short hair, and when my mother dressed her in trousers, the kids in her class ridiculed her by calling her a boy. I have included her voice where she explains how she felt and why.
Well, because I am a girl, I don't remember what it was exactly that told me that, but I knew I was a girl, and when someone called me otherwise, I hated it. I guess because all that I was expected to do was what girls are expected to do, like look all frilly and pretty and wear matching shoes and bangles and earrings and not be loud or jump around or do anything of the sort. On the other hand, it was okay if boys all did all of this. So when they called me a boy, I thought of all the things that came with it, which I did not want to be associated with. So I felt bullied. I think people made me feel it if I was a girl or a boy, and so once I was sure, it confused me. When someone called me something else, which irritated me. You know, confusion is irritating. They were making me unsure, I guess.
West and Zimmerman explain that by the tender age of 4 or 5, gender roles and gender identity have solidified in our minds because of our surroundings. And such experiences can create tensions and confusions in the minds of little children. Then I come to my third question. Did men make me a woman? Even today, it sends a chill down my spine, just as I couldn't help but feel the goosebumps on my 14-year-old body and the subsequent fury that replaced them, as I had listened to my class fellow's account of how her own uncle had touched her inappropriately. She had narrated how petrified she had been. Her body had frozen as he had come closer. She said she hated him, herself, and her body. Why didn't you stop him or scream? I had exclaimed, because I wasn't sure how to react. What if I was wrong? What if they got angry at me? What if they didn't believe me? I had no answer to her questions, but just thoughts about what I would have done. Just listening to her had traumatized me. The abuser had made his point that we were women, a being inferior to him. Kim endorses this. Later, as a school head, a disturbing number of women on my team shared their tales of domestic, sexual, and financial abuse. I also learned that abuse did not vary with socioeconomic status, as highly educated and well established women colleagues were facing the same domestic assault situations as women on the cleaning staff. Globally, an estimated 736 million women, almost 1 in 3, have been subjected to intimate partner violence, non partner sexual violence, or both at least once in their lives. 30% of women aged between 15 and older. 137 women are killed by a member of their family every day. Fewer than 40% of the women who experience violence seek help of any sort. So, analyzing my experiences, I believe there were contradictions in my life. My parents' effort to give me a privileged life as a female with access to opportunities, education, agency, and an autonomy of choice was met by the society's hammering of my true position as a woman. Sometimes I feel they raised me incorrectly as a misfit because despite their own non traditional thinking, we could not dwell in oblivion to the cultural and societal requirements of being a woman in a patriarchal society. But then I think, on the other hand, their approach initiated or contributed to the much needed change which was and is still required for girls. So, Lord 1984 suggests that we as women also need to uproot internalized patterns of oppression within ourselves if we wish to initiate and promote societal change. I believe this can be done by trying to ascertain what makes us uncomfortable and then advocating against customs which objectify and belittle women. This will not only pave the way for betterment for our coming generations, but will also establish appropriate standards of behavior for them. The second is that we must empower them so that women's dependency on some man, a father, a brother, a husband, or a son for her safety and survival is outmoded. But I also want to establish here, as a woman, my aspiration is not to be equal to a man. I just want the basic rights of a human being, which means access to identity, justice, respect, and liberty. Then I believe men need to be included in these discourses. As Katz says, that this can only be possible by renaming these issues as men's issues and not women's issues, so that contributing to their rectification is not a choice for men, but a mandatory action. Just as my father played a major role in trying to give us sisters a different and more meaningful life, no less than any boy. He provided the best possible opportunities for his children, not thinking if they were a girl or a boy. Mohanty criticizes the herd mindset assigned to women's matters in any given community, culture, or space. Although women share the sameness of oppression, their circumstances and required treatment of their problems are very different and must be accounted for. Harding warns against universalizing their experiences and problems because then many voices are lost in this concept of a universal sisterhood. Harding says that there is no woman and there is no woman's experience. They're all unique. And so now I understand my role as an educator. I must evolve to accommodate students struggling with gender identities and contribute to mitigating this gender discrimination. I now dream of the time when no woman would be cheated out of her rights, and body shaming, rape, domestic abuse would be words in a dictionary, paragraphs in a history book, and girls would be treated with respect and equity. I find hope in the way my parents approached this situation and raised their girls. If more and more parents of girls change their attitude, transformation will be inevitable. More importantly, parents of boys must also change the way they look at girls around them. I've written a poem about the current situation, which I would like to share with you. Who am I? Am I the bows and frills and curls which you expect to see? I think enveloped in my mother's caress, while she just looks at me. Am I the contours of my body which you do not possess? Or the grey matter I also have, with which I hope to impress? Am I the stares you give me as I walk down the street? Or the time I invest as a mother in lovingly raising your fleet? Am I the tarnished body that you have touched to pain? You have tarnished me forever for some moments of pleasure you gain. Am I the scar on my face that you will never marry to be yours? Or the dowry named ransom you get, my future which presumably secures? Who am I? I asked my mother, hoping to end my confusion. You are who I was and others will be, as change is a mere illusion. Thank you so much for watching. Please do post your questions. I will be looking forward to your feedback.